This is a comic review of Jinty and Lindy, 7pence, and it's all the way from 18th of December 1976, 44 years ago. It's got 2 new stories, the mystery. They always often did this. They would have the cover would feature the new story. So this Mystery of Martine and the Scepter of Toltec. Exciting first episodes inside. And I don't know how many issues they would continue for. Maybe it was like 10, 5, I don't know, without actually going through all the data for all these things. And sadly, I don't think there's, well, maybe there is. I've never found one, a website with all these stories listed. It's possible, I guess. Maybe something to research. This is IPC, and of course it was like Tammy and all the other things. You had Tammy and Jinty, Jinty and Lindy, Lindy and something else, probably Tammy and June, whatever. There was a whole heap of these things. 32 pages, black and white predominantly, with a little bit of colour mixed in. So you've got the first story, Go On Hate Me. It must be really hard for like companies like Rebellion to actually, unless they've got the proofs, the original early, they've got those, that's fine. But if you don't, if you've got these sort of comics, it's going to be very hard to clean these up to actually bring out, because this one here, Go On Hate Me, you can see through the comic. You can actually see through to the, just put it there. However, the artwork is great. I really love the artwork. Just always, not all. Obviously, some stories you get and you look at and think, that artwork's not so great. Though I must admit, one criticism, often you look at things and you see the similarities. The characters look like characters from another comic and another comic. You know, you can look at some of these and you think, well, you know what, she looked like someone else in another story. But however, that's a minor criticism. I love this bit. This is the cultural references. Of course, it's always great when you look at these old comics because, of course, you've got the like the original cars in the thing, and you've got like the new Avengers in the back. Got Steve there and Purdy, and she's reading Jinty there. You've got a lovely old iron there as well. And you've got the market and obviously the house, all the various things in there. Of course, no computers, no mobile phones, nothing like that. So it's a sort of a snapshot of a time, which you probably, well, obviously when you read a book, say a standard novel, you obviously get a general picture. Also, when you, of course, watch a film, that's about closest equivalent of this. But sometimes I think when you're watching a film, you may be not watching all things, but with a comic, you can actually just look at all the background. You can look at the things and see the things. So I quite enjoy looking at comics for those as well as the story. And this is a decent story. You've got obviously the conflict with the 2 sisters, you've got the parents, and they generally often have that sort of, you've always got some, obviously a friend, and you've obviously got some protagonists and antagonists as well. Now the next story, and I don't know if this was from Lindy or whether it was for a Jinty story, no idea. You've got this slightly odd, this one. This is Gertie Grit, the hateful Brit. I mean, really? That was really, was a very, so you got, it's in colour, but what a title. The Hateful Brit. Really? However, trouble is they never put, knocking my mic there, they never put any information about, obviously, who the artists were or the writers. It's always a pity. I always think that's one thing that I think that's sad thing that's missing from British comics or UK comics. How do you want to say it? So you've got Gypsy Rose, looks at the stars. You've got astrology there, a bit of astrology. Something very personal. You've got the Jinty annual 1977, which always confused me. The fact that it said 77, of course it was 76. For me, it was for Christmas 76. Therefore, it should have been the annual for 76. However, annual 77. Scepter of the Toltecs. You've got this archaeological dig, and this is a new story. And you've got the parents have been away on that thing, and it's got Jenny Marlowe. School holidays have been dull for Jenny Marlowe. Her parents were archaeologists. They've been away on a dig in Mexico. Why couldn't she have gone with them? However, they come back, and there's a Toltec involved. Obviously, I assume there's obviously someone anyway that's in the story. Never get much particularly detail in this. I'm certain the story was developed far more to make it far more complex than this storyline, where basically she's, we first introduced to the character. Christmas is coming, luckily. And you've got lovely Christmas scenes there. with all the things like your radio and perfume. Then Made Up Mandy. Yeah, it's quite a nice little story. And this one actually is in colour, which is quite nice. So you've got Made Up Mandy. Another trouble is when you turn these pages, they will not turn. Just can't get to grips with them. Now it's only a 3-page. Now I love these things as well. This isn't, I think it's really great with these things. You've got these sort of, oh boy, this obviously was a magazine back then, oh boy, and it was 12 pence. Oh, it was a bit more glossy, I suspect. So it wasn't like these sort of like cheaper. It was, I think it was on a better quality paper. And they had Starsky and Hutch, Flintlock. You know what? Did I actually have seen it? I can't even remember what songs they did, Flintlock. They must have. I think they must check on YouTube or whatever just to see what songs they did, or on Spotify, etc. So Rod Stewart, Bay City Rollers, and David Essex. So you got that, and I'll have to. Then you got Cook It Up for Christmas, Sugary Mice, very nice. And then Sue's Fantastic Fun Bag, and I love those stories. Those are sort of one, the sort of magical bag. You got a magical bag. You got a big smile on the bag's face, and she obviously does tricks and things. And thank goodness you stopped, etc. But of course, but sadly, it's only like 2 pages. 2 pages of Sue's Fantastic Fun Bag. Really nice little story. This one's a bit odd. The Big Cat. It's pretty similar to other stories I've read where you've got like a. They often had this sort of thing where you got a girl that goes off out and protects an animal. I don't know, the magical hamster or the magical, lion or something. They'd be walking around with a lion. Nothing unusual about that, of course. But of course, everyone's looking for her with this cat, and you obviously have all the adventures involved there. Back in the 70s, people obviously did that quite on a regular basis. The Mystery of Martine. This one's Tessa, her sister, was suddenly a star, but a frightening change was coming over her. So you've got, again, some lovely bit of artwork there, Mystery of Martine. And again, you've got the same problem. The ink from of the page is coming through. You can actually see. So it must be, I don't know how if they go from this to clean it up, would be very tricky, unless you can find copies that are much better preserved than this, and the ink hasn't sort of. But it's quite an interesting story. There, you got this actress, and also there's obviously a relationship again. Oh dear, all good stuff. But that was a continuing story. The Alley Cats. You got another humorous story. They often have these, which I love, little humorous stories. And then you got Funny Fellas. Now this is an odd one. Now because I have no idea who this is, and there's a picture of this pop star. And I assume he is one of these people. Now I'm guessing from the sort of the shoes that he might be Les Gray of Mud. I don't know. Shirley? Bjorn of ABBA. It's certainly not ABBA. However, you got the Christmas number as well. A fun Christmas quiz for after turkey time. Holly and the Ivy, a complete story, especially for Christmas. Smashing prizes to be won in free competition. And you've got a little Christmas fun spot. And then I've got, this is one of the best. This is the best one here. This is what I love about these old comics. Really, it's a real missing treasure of all been sort of lost and forgotten, really, which is really sad. This sort of thing. Daisy Drudge and Milady Maud. Now, this story is obviously Prince and the Pauper kind of thing, where you've got the swap over story. That's a bit of a cliche, I know, but still, you can't beat the story. And it's, of course, got she's doing working away in doing the cooking there. Obviously, she's one's enjoying life and one's not. Now, sometimes, of course, you never know which way around on that storyline. But then we got Zoom. Now, I'm not certain what this is. Zoom. Now, Crazy is the comic, so I assume Zoom is it's not a comic called Zoom. So I don't remember Zoom comic. So, but Crazy I do remember, and that was 7 pence as well. December the 13th. Plus part 3, and that's the way it's done. And then you've got letters pages as well, and I love letters pages. I think letters pages are always great because you sort of can read what people were thinking at the time. Obviously, this is not going to be any great. But they hardly even mention the comic. It's obviously completely different from normal thing when you read it. Oh, I really love X, Y, Z from a previous issue. Doesn't seem to have that sort of thing. So, love heart pendant on the back. So that's it, Jinty and Lindy. I think these are just great, these things. Sadly, the price of these, if you look online to look for these, is quite often very expensive. I really don't know why. At one time, you used to get these like in bundles. You get them, rolled them up, and you like get 10, and you get them for 1p at a fair. They were that, super cheap and in terrible condition, of course. But this one, likewise, you think it's a pity they've gone so expensive. However, a good place to check out magazines and comics, I think, is the 30th Century Comics website. If you want to look on there, they've got vast amounts of comics, and that's always a great site to look for things like Jinty and Lindy, as well as, of course, other comics as well. And, of course, eBay and other places, Amazon, etc. So, Jinty and Lindy, 18th December 1976. Really excellent little issue.